With the United States landing Mauricio Pochettino to be their next head coach, it looks like a lot of United States fans owe technical director Matt Crocker a massive apology for all of the mud they dragged him through after Greg Berhalter was fired. We're going to talk about that and the Pochettino signing next here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub. It wasn't that long ago, a month, 6 weeks ago, that technical director Matt Crocker, who oversees all of U.S. soccer, was being absolutely destroyed by the United States fan base, primarily those who are prevalent on the wasteland and the cesspool that is USMNT Twitter. And he was being destroyed for a number of reasons, some of which have some validity. His lack of face showing when Berhalter was fired, no press conference, lack of being actually present at the Copa America. And I'm not saying Matt Crocker is perfect, but he was being absolutely destroyed for not caring and being totally negligent, grossly incompetent, and just another yes man for United States soccer. He was being totally destroyed. And yet here we are. He has now hired Emma Hayes to coach the women, who is largely considered to be the best women's coach in the world. And now he just landed Mauricio Pochettino, who was never really considered to be an option, I think, in a lot of people's wildest dreams. And you look back at where we were in both the men's and women's program a year and a half ago to where we are today, and you cannot possibly argue that we are not in better shape. And Matt Crocker has a lot to do with it because he was the person and the mastermind behind both of those signings. So we need to give him credit where it's due, and a lot of fans owe him an apology. We're going to get into this Pochettino signing and what it means for the United States, but before we go any further down this rabbit hole, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel. Get in that comment section. Let me know what you think about the signing, about Crocker, about all of this. It's a big day for United States men's soccer. You can also leave some comments on Twitter at Pitchside Pub, and check out the website Pitchside Pub where you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter. So Mauricio Pochettino, that's a big name. That is a big name, and while I do think Crocker deserves a lot of credit here, I do want to be realistic about what a Pochettino hiring means. This is not, we're going to win the World Cup. That is not realistic. If you are celebrating this hire because it means we are going to now be one of the best national teams in the world, that's just not how this works. He doesn't change the players on the pitch who are good but are not world class. We are not Argentina. We are not Brazil. We are not England or France or Spain. We are not of that caliber. We are a good nation in terms of talent on the pitch when everybody's healthy and everybody's playing. Should we be better than we have done under Greg Berhalter? I would say yes. The World Cup ended about the way I expected. Copa America went poorly, right? So there's definitely room for improvement, and that's what this Pochettino hire should bring. But we are not all of a sudden a top 5 team in the world. It doesn't work that way because we didn't get any new players, and there's a lot of talk about the possible recruitment that Pochettino can bring in. But to be honest, the team he starts in the first game of the World Cup is going to look very similar to the one that started at the end of Copa America. There may be a few changes here. The bench may look different. The depth may look different. But it's going to be, 7 or 8 of the 11 are going to be the same. So this has not been a fundamental change in the on-field product in terms of the results. However, it should be a fundamental change in the philosophy, the tactics, the energy, and the execution of how we get to where we're going as a nation, as a footballing nation. And that's part of why this is such a good hire. Mauricio Pochettino's record is inconsistent, up for debate. He's not Pep Guardiola. He's not Jurgen Klopp. And for those who are saying we should have held out for Jurgen Klopp specifically, or a better coach, you are not living in reality. Jurgen Klopp was never going to coach this team. He was never going to coach this team, certainly not right now, and probably not in the year and a half we have before the next World Cup. He wants to take a break. He's made that very clear. And also we need to realize that this job is not quite as attractive as we made it out to be. Now, there are two positives. One is the money. We have money, so we paid a big name coach. Okay, great. The other is we are going to be hosting the next World Cup, and coaching a host nation team could be a really neat experience, for lack of a better term, a really cool experience, something that a coach would be desiring to do. So it's a good job, but it's not France. right? This isn't the clamoring that there's going to be when Didier Deschamps steps down. This isn't the England job. So it's a good job, but it's not a great job. Jurgen Klopp had no interest in this job. So rule him out, and frankly, waiting a whole lot longer for, I don't know who the better options are, is dangerous because of the impending World Cup window that is coming very, very quickly. So we could not afford to wait too long. We needed to make a move now, and Pochettino is far and away the biggest name that had actual interest in this job. He is a much better hire than Patrick Vieira. He's a much better hire than a lot of who they were realistically tied to, right? You know, Pep wasn't coming here, Carlo Ancelotti wasn't coming here, Jose Mourinho wasn't coming here, Jurgen Klopp wasn't coming here. That's all nonsense. That's just fans being fans thinking that this is Football Manager or something. That's just not how anything works. So he was the biggest name hire that we possibly could have brought into the fold. Now, being a big name is not necessarily a qualification for a coach. I made that argument in a video when it looked like Patrick Vieira was a possibility. He's a big name. He's not a particularly good coach. Mauricio Pochettino is a good coach, and I don't think that's up for debate. Now, just how good of a coach he is very much up for debate. And you can ding him for a lot of his last stops. You can also make excuses for a lot of his last stops. Tottenham. He got Tottenham Hotspur to a Champions League final. Think about that for a minute. Tottenham, who is perennially one of the laughingstocks, at least among the big clubs in Europe and in the Premier League, in England at least. And not a laughingstock because they're so bad, but because they never seem to live up to expectations, and they always seem to be the lovable losers. And not lovable if you're a fan of a rival team, but we always laugh at their expense at how they manage to screw things up, right? That's been the Tottenham history there, is good club that never wins any trophies. Well, he didn't win a trophy, but it's Tottenham, so knock him, but there's the excuse. But he got him to a Champions League final. That is an achievement. And his biggest obstacle there was Daniel Levy, and the ownership there that didn't give him quite the support he needed. He then went to PSG, and that whole PSG time was a complete train wreck. Now, he did win Ligue 1 there, Ligue 1 in France, but it doesn't count to it. He doesn't get credit for it because PSG's supposed to win it. What I like about his experience there is he had to handle a dressing room that had Kylian Mbappe, Lionel Messi, Neymar. If he could handle that dressing room, he can manage any team anywhere on the planet. And one of the most attractive things about Mauricio Pochettino is the fact that he is being brought in to light a fire under the ass of these players. And it has been well documented that Greg Berhalter was very much a player's manager. And a lot of the players have spoken highly of him, in part because anybody who spoke out against him got excommunicated from the team. But there are some stars that definitely could have spoken out against him a little bit more, Pulisic and Adams, who were not going to be dropped from the team no matter what they said, essentially. And they still showed a ton of support. It is on record that he gave them a lot of say. He had a leadership group that had a lot of decision-making power. Those days are over. And while I have been defensive of the players' efforts, I don't think there was any lack of effort or desire to win by anybody on the men's national team in the World Cup and in Copa America. But they were not properly motivated, and they did have a lot of flat performances, and there definitely was some complacency there. I don't think they wanted it any less. I don't question their desire. They left it all out on the pitch every time, even when they were down a man, and they were fighting back. But there was some complacency there, and that is Greg Berhalter 100%. Those days are gone. Mauricio Pochettino is going to come in and light a fire under these players' asses. He is known to be tough. He is known to be challenging. He is known to make them work. Now, one of the things he's known for is extensively hard training sessions in practice. It will be interesting to see how that plays out in a national team job where you simply don't have the players for as long. So he can't get them in the sort of conditioning shape that he likes or that he requires to play the style of football that he likes. And so that doesn't mean he's not going to try, right? But it'll be interesting to see how that translates, because that's part of why he's been an effective coach, is his ability to get the most out of players in those regards in the training sessions. And now he doesn't have that. But that is a challenge for any coach who is used to the club setting and is now coming to the national team. And that is another question about Pochettino, is he's never managed on the national team stage. And there is a different strategy sometimes when you need to just survive a group stage versus a knockout game versus what have you. There is a different method to preparation. You don't have the players for nearly as long. They come off these club seasons, they come into breaks, and they have been a little used to it being a little easier. Those days are over. They're going to come and work hard. He's going to be sure of that. But any club manager that the United States hired would have those same question marks. So the only way to avoid the question mark of, well, how is his club management strategy going to translate to national team strategy? The only way to not have that question mark would be to hire another national team specific coach, for lack of a better term, right? So if they had hired Patrick Vieira or Cherundolo or any of the club guys that they were mostly tied with, we would have had the same question. So I'm not too terribly worried about that. But it's tough to call him a winning coach when his only real league win was at PSG in a league that they should have dominated, and frankly, he didn't win it by that much. Now, on the other hand, you don't get bonus points. You don't get a bigger trophy for winning by 20 points, right? So winning towards the end of the season by the skin of your teeth is a win. I actually think that was a horrible situation at PSG. I've been on record to say the Messi, Mbappe, Neymar all-star team strategy was abysmal by PSG. And frankly, I don't think that team was that good beyond that front three, and those three didn't want to play together. And they didn't really know how to play together, and there was so much, animosity. So the fact that he could manage that is a qualification in and of itself. He is going to have no trouble coming in and owning this locker room, and they're going to have to respect him. The Chelsea thing, his time at Chelsea, it's so hard to gauge because Chelsea itself is such a fiasco in so many ways. What we saw was a rough start, followed by what was a pretty strong finish. And frankly, he should still be the Chelsea manager. He should not have been available for this job. There are very few people who think that Chelsea is better off now than they were under Pochettino. He was starting to get them to come around. Again, his training sessions, his style, his strategy. Now, I do worry a little bit about how long that'll take to implement in the international setting because you simply don't have the time with the players. And if it took a while at Chelsea, it's going to take even longer in these short stints on international breaks. And that's why I don't know that this is a massive game changer. But I don't look at his time at Chelsea as a failure on Pochettino nearly as much as I see it as a failure of Chelsea from top to bottom. He had that team go in the right direction. Things were happening, and I think he ultimately would have been relatively successful there had he gotten the chance to stay. But of course, nobody gets the chance to stay at Chelsea. So we have a mixed bag of results on the pitch. And it's hard to gauge what that means for the future of the United States men's national team. I don't think they are all of a sudden contenders. I think they are probably going to end up around the quarterfinals again when the United States hosts in a few years. That's just based on the talent alone. However, there's different ways to get there. And if they get there with a little more enthusiasm and they're scoring more goals and they have a chance in more games, that plays a major factor. I don't think they're going to win the World Cup because of Mauricio Pochettino, which doesn't work that way. But if you look at their trek through the World Cup in 2020, they got through the group stage, not exactly with a lot of panache. They basically just fended off England, got their goals here and there, but they barely squeaked out of it. It wasn't exactly decisive that they got out of the group stage. And then they got obliterated by the Netherlands. Now, do they instantly become good enough to beat the Netherlands because of Mauricio Pochettino? No, I don't think it's that simple. But if he can get more out of them, they could have competed better in that game. They were tactically destroyed in that game. Berhalter got absolutely pantsed in that game, strategically and preparation-wise and tactically. That is not going to happen here. So if Pochettino can get a little more out of them and raise the intensity and get them to play a little more on the front foot and create more scoring opportunities, then they can be in those games. Will they win them? Not every time, but they got a better chance. They will win more of them. They play 10 of those games against the Netherlands and Belgium and some of those types of opponents. Instead of winning 2, they'll win 5, right? So it gives us a chance. So maybe they get out of the group stage and win a quarterfinal game and get to a round of 8 game. I don't know. We will see. Or around a 16 or a round of 8 game. It remains to be seen, but I don't think this drastically changes the future of the United States men's national team so much as it just gives them a chance. And that's really all we're looking for here. For Pochettino, I don't think this is a long-term stop. I think he's signing up for a 1.5 to 2 years. I don't even know what the contract's going to be because it hasn't come out yet, but I'd venture to say he has agreed with Matt Crocker to coach through the World Cup, and then he wants to get back into club ball. But for him, it's an opportunity, right? If he can take what Berhalter did, which was underwhelming, and make the United States overachieve just a little bit, he's going to show his mettle, and then he can get his next job, which will either be another big European job or another big national team job or what have you. So that's what I'm seeing here is 2 years at the max, but I'll take it because Pochettino was far and away the best option we could find. He's not perfect. But we're not the job a lot of our fans think we are. This was not as enticing of a job of a position as a lot of fans made it out to be. Pep wouldn't come here. He don't want to do that. Jurgen Klopp didn't come in here. He don't want to do that. Pochettino was the best get we could get. And he's not perfect as a coach, but the other options were not good. Not good. So I'm thrilled by this hire. I don't know if it fundamentally changes the outcome in a couple years, but I think the way we go about getting there will change, and that gives it a better shot to change the outcome. We can't change who we are as a nation. We can't change the talent on the pitch dramatically. We can add a few things here and there, but we can get a little more out of them. And that incremental improvement, if Pochettino can do that, could be enough to get us one round further in the World Cup. I'd love to get your thoughts on this, on Pochettino, on Matt Crocker, on the hire, on his history, on Berhalter, anything. Get down in that comment section. Let me know what you think. You can also leave comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub. While you're at it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel and check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.